Welcome back to Conversations with My Ex. This is episode 2. I'm Jared,
I'm Aisha.
and today we are going to be tackling the question, how comfortable is too comfortable? I think that this is something that we definitely struggled with in our relationship quite
I wouldn't
heavily.
I wouldn't say struggled with. I think we just went overboard with the comfortability that we had with each other. I don't think it was a struggle.
Okay.
It may have caused maybe some issues that we didn't realize, like underlying issues, but I wouldn't say it was a struggle. I think it was it wasn't enough of a struggle for us that it became a little too much.
Yeah, maybe I should have worded that in the sense of
Yeah.
it caused struggles. It wasn't a struggle in the sense of we had no problem being comfortable with each other, but how much of a problem did that cause? So
Yeah.
yeah, I guess we might as well just get right into this with talking about just comfortability in a relationship in general, because just like we're talking about our story being exes and still being friends, and we found that rather unique, I think the level of comfortability that we had in our relationship with each other is also rather unique. Correct me if I'm
100%.
wrong, but I don't know if you
No.
know. I don't know if you know anybody, because I don't. I don't know if you know anybody who was as comfortable as we were in the relationship.
I definitely know people that were super comfortable, but not to the point like we were. Definitely not to the point like we were. Like, so if we want to get into detail and, you know, sorry if we're getting a little too graphic, but we're doing this podcast to be very open and transparent and honest about everything.
Oh yeah, this is a tell-all. It's like a memoir.
So and I mean, it didn't take us very long into the relationship to get comfortable. I don't remember when like it kind of switched where we were just like, all right, we're all in and we're gonna
Yeah,
just go with it no matter what. But I just remember, I think like I think you farted in front of me or something,
probably. That sounds probably about
and
right.
I didn't make it a big deal, and I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was really funny. And I think you took that as like, all right, word, like this is cool
Yeah, I think
too.
that's on you though, right?
Yeah. And then it kind of was just a domino effect from them.
I don't know if anybody ever farts in front of their significant other on purpose. I know that the first time I did it, there's no way that it was on purpose. I don't remember, like you said, I don't
It
remember how
definitely
far.
wasn't on purpose.
No,
Definitely wasn't on purpose.
absolutely
I think
not.
it just came out and then you just made it like a joke out of it. And then
Yeah.
I was just like, I was all for it. I was all for it.
I think that's all you can do in that situation, right? Is kind of make fun of what you've just done. Otherwise, it's just embarrassing. I feel like if I would have done that and acted embarrassed, it probably would have made the situation a little weirder versus just being like, oops, well, that
Well,
just happened. Let's just roll with it.
I do feel like we're all human, and if my significant other were to fart or do something like that in front of me, like I'm not going to make them feel like nasty or disgusted by it. Like I'm going to make them feel comfortable. That's just the person that I am. Farting for me, and I think that maybe I need to be a little bit more ladylike about that in the future, but like I feel like I would like to be comfortable with farting around my significant other, not to the extent that we were. Like we were literally going full throttle,
Yeah.
like loud and stinky, but like we would find it funny, like because I remember you would always call my farts like baby poop or trash or like sewage. Like every fart had like a specific scent to it, and I thought that that was so funny. Like you were always very descriptive about how my farts smell, and
We're
yours as well.
we're really helping our dating stock in the future with this one. Describing not only the fact that we were so comfortable that we enjoyed not I don't
We didn't enjoy
we
it.
enjoy well, I think we
We
enjoyed the
enjoyed
freedom.
being we were enjoyed being
We
able
enjoyed
to
the
do that.
freedom to be able
Yeah.
to do that and not be shamed by the other.
Yeah.
And I don't know at what point, like how far in that we arrived this
I think it was a
comfortable.
few months. I think it was a few months where the farting was cool. And then like we were just like that was fine. Like burping and farting, all that was cool with us. And then we both deal with stomach issues in different ways. So I definitely feel like one of us was maybe having some kind of issues and like it was kind of just like, ugh, and it just kind of happened. But
I
it
think you can only
spiraled.
hold it for so long before it
Yeah.
becomes problematic and one just slips out. And then at that point, you laugh and gave me the green light saying, all right, here we go. But I look back on our relationship and I don't remember the exact moment that this happened. I just know that we got comfortable with each other rather quickly, because when I look back on like the memories that come up on my phone through Snapchat or any of those things, I see like the timestamp of when it was, like the year and the month, and I'm like, man, we were only dating for 2 to 3 months at this point. It felt like at that moment we had been dating for so long
I know.
when we really haven't been.
Which
So
is
it's
nice. Which is, I think that that's really nice. From there, it was just like a spiral effect. And we were pooping and peeing and any kind of bodily fluid, we were doing it in front of each other. And we were.
let's reel this in a little bit, because it just sounds like, yeah, it was a free for all. We were just shitting and peeing all
I
over the
mean,
place.
there was obviously like levels to it, and it got to
Yeah,
that
and I
point.
don't remember at what point. That's the other thing I don't remember, is I don't remember at what point. Like, farting is one thing, right?
Yeah, that's
Farting in
cool.
front of each
That's
other at a certain point in most relationships, I feel like it happens. I know that there's still tons of relationships to where they'll be dating for years. No, I've never farted in front of this person. And to
I
me,
think I
that's
would.
always crazy, because it's like you said before, it's a normal human function.
Yeah.
Everybody farts. I do understand why people don't want to. I get it.
So I'm where I stand when it comes to farting is I definitely want to wait a lot longer than I did with you. Like I would want to wait till we're like a few years into marriage, maybe like that stage to
Into
me because I
farting.
yeah yeah
So you would want to be with somebody. I don't believe that for a second. You would want to be with someone, because think about how long it would generally take for you to date someone, get to know someone, build a relationship, a level of comfortability, know each other on the same page to where, okay, now this person's going to propose to you, go through probably at least 1 year of being engaged, and how long it took you to get to that point, and then
I
married for a
mean
couple more years. Are you going to, there's no way you're telling me that you would date someone roughly the same amount of time you dated me before you feel okay to fart in front of them. That would be torture.
I definitely feel like I'm exaggerating for sure, but I definitely do want to wait a lot longer. Like I really want to hold that in and like hold that because I feel like a man finds a woman so pure and so
Oh, I
like
totally get
angelic
it.
in a way, and I feel like doing that kind of takes away from that. Regardless if they say they're cool about it or not, I feel like it definitely does take away from that innocence and that beauty and that, that godly presence. Like it kind of takes that away from it. It
Yeah.
really does. No
Yeah.
matter how cool you are with it, it does take away from that.
So
100%.
so I will say this. Even though you and I were very comfortable doing it, I think for me moving forward, maybe not even just moving forward, the way that I think it should have been is like, we were so open to the point where we wouldn't even try to avoid it,
Oh
right?
no.
We'd be watching
Honestly, we'd be
TV.
excited
What,
for a fart to come. We'd be like, hey,
we sound like weirdos, but we
it's
wouldn't.
the truth.
I get, I think the way that it should be, and this is just my point of view, based on our experience, and we'll talk about what we believe the repercussions of all this was long term. We'll get to that point. But I think moving forward for me, like I said, I know everybody farts. I would love someone to feel comfortable enough around me to not feel embarrassed, at least
Hmm.
for them to know that I'm not going to judge them for doing it. The way that I
Yeah.
think you and I should have handled it is, hey, we know that this happens. We know that we both do it. And every once in a while, you're trying to hold one in and it just comes out fine. But we should have made the effort. And I hope moving forward that anybody that I have in my life, and I'll also take responsibility that I needed to make this effort as well.
We were both equally, yeah.
Get up
We
and
were.
leave the room. Just be courteous. We were not courteous about it at all. We just was like, ha 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 ha, just did it. You know what I mean? Like, we thought it was the
Mhm.
funniest thing, which I
It
I
was.
it
It was at the time.
yeah, but
And
it
like
shouldn't be like,
I can still fart in front of you now. I do it all the time.
we shouldn't
But
be like a couple of bros hanging out
no.
just ripping ass. Like, that should
Nope.
not be how it is in a romantic relationship. And we did it from such an early moment.
Hmm.
But like I said, it happens accidentally, right? I think everyone's trying to hold it in, and then we've all had that fart that we're trying to hold, like,
It's
desperately,
painful. It's so painful. And it's honestly
desperately.
really bad for your body.
Can I tell you
It's
a
really, really bad for your body to hold that stuff in.
Can I tell you a
But
fart
now, like,
story?
yeah, tell me a fart story.
So there was one time I remember this vividly in elementary school. We were taking a test, and it's almost like the same thing there as it is in a relationship. You never want to fart in front of kids. Like
Yeah, like in
I,
public.
it's almost like I don't want anyone to know that I fart, even though we all know that farts happen.
Mm-hmm.
We're taking a test, so obviously it's very quiet in the classroom, and I feel one coming on. And you ever been in the moment where you feel one coming on, and you're like, if I just control the speed in which this comes out of me, like I may be able to control the sound of this thing. Like if I let
Mm-hmm.
it out a little bit at a time, there'll be no noise. Like that was the assumption that I was under. So I decided I'll let this squeeze out little by little, and it was the loudest, longest fart I've ever done in my life because it rippled off those
And this was in the
chairs.
middle of
It
school.
was in the middle of a test. So
Oh my
everyone's
god.
quiet, and it lasted so long that it it rippled for so long, and I just sat there, and I remember picking my head up and looking around. Everyone's just like staring at me. It was
Such a Jared thing to do.
yeah. I mean, people thought it was hilarious. The teacher was like, "All right, settle down," but
But yeah, we were just
farts
super
are funny.
comfortable with each other. Farts are funny. But if I'm going to say one thing, I do, because I don't think I'm ever going to experience this kind of like comfortability again to this extent this quickly. I did appreciate how it made me feel that you, even seeing me in my ugliest, nastiest times of like who I am, you still loved me and you still accepted me and you still made me feel loved. And I feel like that was such a beautiful thing that I was like, all right, I can fart in front of this guy. I can take a massive dump in front of this guy, which this is horrible that I'm
When
saying
did
that.
we
But
even get to that point to where farting is
I
one
don't
thing?
I don't remember. I really don't remember. I
It
just
had to have
remember that
been when we
we
lived
just
together, right?
we just like pickled back off of each other. Like I feel like one like we kind of just like tested the waters, I feel, little by little, and then it was like, all right, well, we're really just gonna full send.
I don't remember the exact moment that bathroom was like a thing. Like I just don't. I do remember like in many relationships, or maybe not. Maybe I'm just because of our experience, I think everybody's like this, which I know is not the case. At the beginning, even actually all the way through, but there was a certain extent where we started like showering together on a regular
Mm-hmm.
basis. And I remember when we first started dating, showering together is like exciting. It's ooh, this is kind of
Yeah, we were always having sex in
romantic
the shower.
and
Yeah.
sexual to an extent. And then it became a thing where we were just doing it because we wanted to shower at the same time and we didn't want to wait for the other to be done. Where there was no
Yeah.
sexual activity, it was just
Mm-hmm.
get out of the water. I need to rinse the soap off of me. Like we need to do a switcheroo here in the shower. And I feel like the first time that bathroom happened in terms of like even just peeing. I mean, for me and for most guys, we pee in front of people all the time in the sense
Mm-hmm.
of if we're out
I don't
and
think
about.
peeing's a big. I don't think peeing's a big deal at all.
No, I don't think so either. I think that's what started it though
Oh,
was
100%. Yeah.
we were planning on all right, I got to shower, you're going to shower, but you had to go to the bathroom first. Because I remember I would always joke around with you cuz you would get all uncomfortable, which sounds terrible. Yeah, I'd purposely make you uncomfortable. But you'd be like peeing
I always had stage fright.
and I'm in the
Yeah.
shower and I'd always just peek out of the shower just to make you feel uncomfortable and you'd be like stop, and then I think it just became so normal that it no longer caused you stage fright and
Yeah.
it made you go I don't care if he looks at me.
I remember the beginning. I'd be like, "Don't look at me," or I'd have to like put the water on to pee. I was just so like, "No."
But peeing is one thing. I really do not remember when
I know when it started getting
pooping,
into like we were pooping in front of each other. I don't
which
remember either.
this sounds so bad out of context. Let's paint this picture. We weren't actively seeking out the other one. Like if she was
No,
in the
no.
bathroom pooping, I'm not going to go in and stand there and talk to her. No, that's not how
No,
that
you
works.
kind
No,
of did sometimes.
when we lived together, it was one thing where if
Oh
you were
yeah.
there and I was still had to get ready in the morning, we were like, fuck it, we're not wasting any time. Or if I was taking a shower and you had to go, you were just, I'm going to go. I'm not going to wait for you to be done in the shower. I have to go.
Mm.
Or if I'm running late or whatever, I'm still trying to do my morning routine and you have to go, you're just going to go. And I don't remember the exact moment when we were like, sure, this is cool. I really
Me neither.
don't.
But it was definitely like a good maybe like 6 months in, like
That's
six,
still
7 months
way too
in.
soon to be doing that. You
Yeah.
should never
It
be
was,
doing it, honestly. But
yeah, no.
I really don't honestly remember that. And other
But
than those, like, no, go ahead.
I remember though when we started getting super comfortable with each other, and my really good friend Brooke, she was like, Aisha, like, what are you doing? Like, what do you mean? I was like, I think it's cute that we like can be comfortable and all that. She was like, Aisha, like, that really affects you like sexually and all that. Like later on, she was like, I would never do that with my partner, and I feel like it's just not a good look. And I remember getting so defensive, and I was like, she doesn't know what she's talking about. Like, she wishes she could be that comfortable with her man, blah 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 blah. But now I look back at it now, and I was like, she was giving good advice. Like, there's just a certain line that you need to draw and a certain boundary that needs to be put into place when it comes to your partner, no matter how long you've been dating, no matter how comfortable you feel. I just feel like certain things need to be kept private.
Yeah. And I will say that she nailed it right on the head with that
Mm-hmm.
because, like we discussed in our previous episode, telling our story, we talked about how towards the end we weren't really getting intimate. Towards the
Mm-hmm.
end of both breakups that we experienced, we weren't really getting intimate. And it's not just towards the end, it was probably around 4 months maybe before each breakup where we really weren't getting intimate at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I do remember a moment, and I say that a lot, I do remember a moment when, and I don't know if you remember this, I verbally said to you, because we weren't getting intimate, maybe we shouldn't see each other naked as freely as we do.
Because we were naked in front of each other every single day.
Yeah, not even talking about pooping, peeing, and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
just like being naked.
Living together, getting ready in the morning, we just looked at each other as humans. And to an
Yeah.
extent, I do believe that that is a beautiful thing. I think there's an underlying quality that has beauty to it. I'm not talking about the
But
pooping and peeing, but
to an extent, yeah.
I think the fact that we saw each other as human beings, that, hey, these are
Yes.
normal things for humans to do. We know we both do it. So we're not going to judge each other for doing it in front of each other. We're never going to make
But
either
then
feel
you
less than.
lose that sense of like there's no room for curiosity, there's
Nope.
no room for excitement because it's like, all right, you're naked and we're having sex. I see you naked all the time. Like I feel like it's more exciting when it's like, ooh, I haven't seen you naked in a little while. Like this is exciting. Like ooh, like put on something sexy. But it's like you see me naked every single day. That it's just like you lose the excitement. It doesn't matter how good your body looks or how attracted you are to that person. It really doesn't matter. Once you're seeing that on a daily basis, it stops getting excited. That's what everything you do in life. If you do something every single day, it stops getting as exciting. It's just the nature of the beast. It is what it is. So I think that that's something that definitely I feel like couples need to take into account, that when you are getting really comfortable and you do maybe feel like you're lacking a little bit of intimacy because of the length of your relationship, I feel like you should start, all right, let's pick and choose when we get naked in front of each other. Let's pick and choose when, you just have to really make that a special occasion, make it like exciting.
Yeah. And us showering together all the time definitely was another huge thing because, like you just said, there's no mystery to it anymore. It's not,
Hmm.
oh, wow, she's naked. Like,
It's just like, oh,
I don't
okay,
mean
she's
this
naked
in
again.
a negative way, and I'm sure you could, send this sentiment back towards me. We got to the point where we were seeing each other naked, and there wasn't a single thing about either of us being naked that would turn each other on
Yeah, it was
because we
just like
saw it
normal.
so frequently that her being naked or her being in clothes. Actually, I will say this: you almost get more turned on when they're wearing certain outfits over the fact of them being naked, which
Because
sounds
it's
mind-boggling.
different.
It's
No,
different.
because you're wearing something new and exciting. You're doing your hair a certain way. You did your
100%.
makeup in a different way. It's different. It's a change. It's a positive
100%.
change. Because you were always good about telling me, and that's something that I definitely give you kudos for. You always made me feel like I looked beautiful. Like every time I dressed up, or if we went on a date, you always made it a habit of being like, "You look really beautiful. You look really nice." And a lot of guys struggle with that. Like the guy that I dated after you, very very briefly, he rarely told me Like if I dressed up or any of that, he really told me, "Oh my god, you look gorgeous. You look beautiful." Like he would text me here and there saying, "Oh, I love you and you're such a beautiful person. You and this and that." But like if I would dress up and we would go out and like I got all dolled up, he never once like took time out of that moment to be like, "I just want to let you know, like I really appreciate how dolled up you got and you look really beautiful." And that was something that you did and you were really good at. And I think that that's something really important that men need to just remember that it feels good when your man tells you you look good no matter how many years you're dating. If I'm taking the time and the effort to dress up and look pretty and getting ready as a girl is so much more of a hassle and so much labor it's very labor intensive, like it's a lot. So the fact that you like took the time and said like you look really beautiful, like it meant a lot. So I think that that's something that men need to take notes on a lot.
But I do think what you just said, a lot of men do struggle with that. It doesn't come naturally. I know that they may think it. It may be something that's going on in their head where they're saying to themselves, wow, they look beautiful. I don't think they understand how important verbalizing that to their other person, whoever they're dating, whether they're official, not official, just going on a date with. They don't realize how little compliments like that go a long way.
It
To
really does.
to them, they may think, or they said it one time, and they may think, she knows how I feel about her, or she
Yes,
knows what
that's
I
the
think.
biggest excuse. That's the biggest excuse. Oh, you know how I feel about you. You
Yeah, I don't have
know
to
I think
say
you're
it.
gorgeous.
Yeah,
Yeah, but that's not the point. And I saw that in my parents' marriage, for example. My dad was not PDA with my mom at all, which that's fine. A lot of people are different when it comes to PDA.
yeah.
But he also never pointed out, and my mom is a goddess. She's beautiful. And he never, ever, ever would be like, you look really pretty, you look really nice, like you look gorgeous, like never. And so I just remember seeing that, and it did bother my mom. And then her ex boyfriend, her most recent ex boyfriend, would always tell her that she looked beautiful. And also I don't think that you should overly do it either, because then it stops seeming genuine for
Yeah.
sure. Like you don't want to do it every single moment of the day. Then it becomes like suffocating, and it's like, all right, now you're just saying it to say it.
Yeah, you don't
But
think
I,
they're being sincere. It's almost like the
yeah,
same thing we just said about us being naked in front of each other too much. It
yeah,
loses the allure. Like when you say it all the time, like, oh,
it's
you
like, all
say it
right, like you're
first thing in the
just
morning, you say it when I'm dialed up, you say it when I look like this. I don't believe you anymore. You're just saying it to say it.
yeah. So definitely be genuine about it, and make sure that it's kind of like you got to be strategic with that kind of stuff. It really does affect your relationship, and females too. Like women, and regardless if you're dating another woman or dating a man, like you need to point out when you really feel like you're looking extra beautiful and when you're making that effort. I think it's really important.
I do think a lot of people overlook how a little verbalization of those things doesn't even have to be out of this world. Even if
No.
it's something as simple as, I love the outfit that you're wearing.
Yes.
Doesn't
Yes.
even have to be, oh my God, you look ravishing. It could just be, oh, that outfit. I love that outfit. I love the
And you
stylistic
would
choice that you
you
made.
would switch it up, like because like I would dress up differently. Like one day you'd be like, "Oh, you look sexy. Like you look sexy in that outfit." Then another day you would say that, "Oh, you look really beautiful. You look really pretty." Like it wasn't always like the same. You also like had some variety in your compliments too, which
And I
is
think you
also
have
something
to.
to
I think you have to,
yeah. hmm
to an extent. I know
It's
that,
definitely more difficult for a girl, I feel, to compliment a man, but like I feel like when you look good, you got to let them know. When they look good, you got to remind them.
yeah, I would say that I get it from a woman's standpoint on it's more difficult to compliment a man because it's hard to really say much other than, hey, you look handsome.
hmm
And handsome is a weird compliment, at least for me,
I would
because it
always call
seems
you
like,
handsome.
yeah, and I'll preface this, and I appreciate it, but I'll preface this by saying, like, handsome is a universal term to the point where it's like your grandmother always said, you look handsome, or your mom would say that. So it doesn't have that same, oh, I'm knocking it out of the park.
Effect.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, sexy, that helps. I think both ways that helps.
Hot, sexy.
Yeah.
I really like the outfit. Your hair looks great.
Yeah. So I think those things are born. I think you can tell a man that he looks beautiful. I think you can
Yeah.
say that.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
I think you can because it's just that handsome word, which every once in a while sprinkled in, you're like right on. but
I never thought of it about it that way, and
it
now I'll
seems like
take
an
that into
old lady term.
consideration. Yeah,
It just seems like an old lady term.
it's like a family member would give you that
Yeah,
compliment,
you
not
know?
not your not the love of your life.
Or well, I would say that the people that you see more often than not, like, receive that compliment from are people who aren't into you
Romantically or
sexually. Or
sexually,
yes,
yeah,
it's like that's the realm that I place it in. Not saying I never appreciated it because I knew where it was coming from. So it's like I'll
yeah,
still receive it and be grateful for that compliment. But it's hard to just distance myself from thinking that's what that means. It
yeah.
just
That's a good point. But getting back to the topic that we were on, I don't think that it put a super strain on the relationship in general. I definitely do think though intimacy wise, it definitely affected us and
long term it did. Long term it did. Short term
long
it
term.
didn't really have much of an effect, I
Short
don't think.
term, we were loving it. We were like, oh, I can be my 100% authentic self in front of this person. Like, this is fucking dope. And I really did feel that way.
Oh, me too. Me too.
But then it does get to a point where it's like, all right, we're really losing the spark. And our spark sexually kind of dimmed out a lot quicker than I feel like at our age would. And I feel like the reason why was because of how comfortable we were and how we were just like, again, best friends, roommates, living together, doing the thing.
Yeah,
But
I agree. I completely agree.
so I think that that's something that people really need to just really internalize and consider working on that, you know. And also, we didn't make that much of an effort too when we were noticing that like we weren't getting too intimate. Like, I think there were times where like I know you like stockings and stuff like that, so like you went out and got like you purchased me stockings and things like that.
I don't remember if I
But
bought
we
them
I
for
didn't.
you.
You did.
Did
You
I?
ordered them on Amazon. Yeah, the high socks
And
because
I
you were
think you
you're
wore
really
them
into the
one
high
time.
socks. Yeah, so like we definitely too, and I feel like that's something that you really need to work on. Like if you feel like you're having intimacy issues with, and I have a friend
Communication.
who has been with her partner for a really long time, and she's always like, yeah, like we rarely have sex anymore, and I'm like, okay, well do something about it
You
then.
have to talk about it 100% because
Do something about it.
there is a tipping point where I feel like if you wait too long to have that open communication, and communication will be a whole other episode upon itself,
Yeah,
but because it's relevant, we'll briefly touch on it right now because even the compliment thing has a little bit to do with communication, but that'll be its whole
100%.
thing in its own whatever.
Yeah,
But you have to communicate those. If you're feeling a lack of intimacy, you have to bring it up to your partner. And I understand regardless of how comfortable you are, I think you and I didn't talk about it, and I think we probably were both thinking it in our heads, but didn't know how to talk about it with each other, so we just
yeah.
didn't. And your partner's not going to know what you're into unless you share it with them. And I think it's so funny because we were so comfortable with farting, being naked, peeing, pooping, all that stuff with each other. But there was a part
Overly communicating those things.
100%. And there was a part of me that still felt, I don't want to use the word embarrassed because embarrassed isn't the right word, but everybody's into their own things sexually, like what maybe turns them on a little bit more than others. And it always
Kinks and
feels like a weird
fetishes.
thing to bring up,
Yeah.
although we were that comfortable in that realm. But because you don't bring it up, it's never going to happen. And I
Mm-hmm.
believe there's a tipping point. You have to bring it up before it's too late because there's a point where you get so far past losing the spark that no matter what you do, it's so far out of their mind of I'm already that ship has sailed and it ain't coming back to port.
And
And
that's the
once
worst mindset to have. It's
and
the
it
worst mindset
sucks.
to have.
So communicate with your partners, communicate with everybody. Don't
Because I
feel
feel
weird. Don't feel weird about talking about it. Just
you
don't.
shouldn't. And I feel like there's so many other issues that people have in their relationship that intimacy is actually something. And my mom is a therapist and she does do couples therapy, which is very ironic. But she always says, like, when it comes to couples therapy, working on intimacy is honestly like the easiest thing to work on and improve.
Yeah.
The other things that people are lacking in relationships and are struggling with, those are the harder things. But when it comes to intimacy, there's so many things that you can do to spice things up and switch things up and you know switch the dynamic a little bit. It's just a matter of taking that time and effort, and it is hard and it is a
Yeah.
little awkward, but
Because you always
it's
want it
important.
to be as simple, and for some people I'm sure it is, but you always want it to be as simple as it is at the beginning. When you can't keep
I
your hands off
know.
each other, you're
Hmm.
like a couple of high schoolers having sex for the first time. You're just all over each other. Anytime you get a free moment, you that's what we want to do, that's what we're going to do. And as time goes on, it becomes too routine sometimes. Sprinkle in our comfortability and how that affected intimacy long term. But you almost hit
And
this
I think a
point.
big thing that affected our intimacy too was I think that was the biggest thing for us was the schedules. Because I remember I
Yes.
would come home from work super late and I was like horny and wanting to do it, but you're asleep. And I would try to wake up and you'd be like, I'm sleeping. And I'm like, you're not just going to wake up and be like, let's do this thing. Like it's just, and sleep is important. So you just have to
Yeah.
make the effort. You have to make the time and the effort. And we shouldn't get too much into this topic so that we don't lose track. But I do think, was there anything else that you wanted to mention when it came to intimacy?
I mean, yes, but I'm not sure if I should just save it for a future episode.
Yes, because I think we should stay on topic.
I'll say this super generally so it doesn't really go too far in depth. But when you are on opposite schedules, I'm not saying plan it out because that kind of makes it not as exciting and fun.
Yeah.
But, sometimes you have to plan around your schedule so that maybe you're not planning sex on like a Saturday, like, oh, Saturday's our sex day, but
Mm-hmm.
you're planning what historically in your relationship leads to sex, and maybe that's a date night, going out, getting romantic, and then you don't have to necessarily plan sex, but at least you plan time for each other to make it more likely to happen. Getting back to how we all got on the topic of intimacy and lack thereof, we do think that our level of comfortability played a huge role in our lack of intimacy, and basically how it affected us moving forward. Like I said before, I do think it's a beautiful thing because we were able to see each other in a judgment free zone
Yeah.
as a human. And I had this thought earlier, but I didn't want to cut you off, was that the most beautiful part about this is we were so comfortable with each other. It was almost like living by yourself. It's almost like you could act like you were living by yourself, even though there was another person there. It was kind of weird in a good way, but it was weird. And
Yeah.
now that we covered how it really affected our relationship and we kind of went over the intimacy and how, even though it was a beautiful thing, we wouldn't want to probably ever be that comfortable with another human again. And I don't mean that in a negative way, because like I said, it was a beautiful thing to be able to feel that comfortable with another human, but we also see the negative effects that it did have on us in a relationship. And I don't think I'll ever want to be to that level anyways,
Not to that level, yeah.
that comfortable with another human ever again in my life. We experienced it. It was great in a lot of aspects. It had negative effects long term. It is what it is. We've learned from it. So that leads me to ask, what level of comfortability would you want with a future partner? Like, where's that happy medium? What's not enough where you're like, ooh, I don't feel super comfortable. It's too low of a level. And then like, what's way too much? I think I know what the way too much level is, but
I think again, I think it's definitely situational and how people kind of maneuver. But I think at the end of the day, I really want to just set a boundary. And I feel like it's important to have that conversation early on, not like the first date, second date, but once you start seeing that you guys are getting more serious and you're spending a lot more time with each other, I do think that it's important to have that conversation. Like, what are you cool with? Like, what are your non-negotiables when it comes to that kind of stuff? Because I do feel like that open communication about it makes it easier to kind of figure out, like, gauge, like, all right, what's this person cool with? What's this person not cool with? Do I want to go this far? But I definitely feel like in the future, I'm going to keep a lot more things private, 100%, especially when it comes to
yeah.
number two and also like periods and stuff like that. Like, you really have to keep that sacred into yourself, because at the end of the day, that stuff is meant to be private.
Yeah.
It's called privacy. You have a bathroom that you can lock the door. Like, if I feel like I'm having a stomach issue and I feel like I'm gonna have diarrhea and want to run to the bathroom, I want to be comfortable enough to tell my man, "Yo, my
Okay.
stomach's bugging. My stomach's bugging right now. Like, I need to go." Like, I'd rather be able to talk about it
But
and
not
be open
experience
about,
it together.
but not have him smell it, not
Yeah.
have him hear it, not have him be in the same room.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely want to be comfortable enough to be like, "Babe, like, my stomach is killing me right now. Like, I'm going to the bathroom. Don't go in there."
Yeah.
Like, you know what I
Beware.
mean? Like that's what I think I'll be cool with. But other than that, I really do think that keeping it just peeing and like casual stuff like that, like, it's whatever. Like, I want to be able to pee in front of my significant other. Like, I really don't think that that's a big deal. If I'm on my
No.
period, no.
Peeing just
So
doesn't have that same level as like pooping does. Like
it
they're
doesn't.
two
It's a
totally different
really
animals.
big, yeah. It's
That's
a
a big
really
jump.
big different.
That's a
It's like
big jump.
this.
That's
Yeah.
like walking up a steep incline versus climbing Mount Everest. They're very different.
Yeah.
Very different
But
things. But I agree with you. I think I'm the same way, to where I want it to be okay for me to be able to communicate to my partner, like, hey, maybe not in such a crude way as this, that I have to go take a shit. It's okay that you know that I'm doing it. I don't want you to be close enough in a vicinity to smell it or hear it. It's okay that you know.
Exactly.
And the same thing with farting, really. I think every once in a while, if one slips out, cool. I'm not going to make you feel any kind of way about it. But moving forward, I'm going to be the type of person who gets up and leaves the room. It's okay that you know that I farted, but I don't want you to hear it or smell it. Because I feel like knowing that it happens is one thing, experiencing it happening is a completely different thing. And I think that that's like a, to me anyways, that's a good happy medium of, you know, it's happening, but you don't need to experience it with me. You know, I
I
aside from,
agree.
like, let's say my significant other, in the sense of like stomach issues, is sick and they need me to bring them something, I want to be able to feel comfortable where we can just quickly pop in, here's what you need, I'm out, type thing. But that's the most extent that I ever want to be involved with that stuff going forward. That's it. I don't want to see anybody in my life's number two again, unless at some point I have a child and I got to change a diaper. I don't ever want to
Yeah.
see it ever again, unless that's the case. Never.
But speaking about like communication and non-negotiables and all of that, I did go on a date recently with a guy who, he opened up about a lot of things way too quickly. And this is going to kind of dive into what we're going to talk about next, as to like being like how open is too open and how comfortable is
Yeah.
too comfortable. It's all kind of like the same thing.
Yeah, like when's the
But I
right
do,
time to disclose this stuff, really?
yeah. And it was a really great first date. Don't get me wrong. I liked how he took charge. He had a plan for us. We were vibing. It was definitely, but I could tell that he was just like an open book, which is a good thing, you know? But he
Yeah.
was too open. And like it got to a point where he was telling me too many things about his ex and their situation, that she was a stripper, that this, that, and the third. And then, we got into conversation and it was like flowing and it was fine. And then I don't know how the topic of, I think it's because I mentioned like our relationship and how we were very comfortable with each other. We were using the bathroom in front of each other, and he was like, "Whoa." He was like, "Are you serious?" And I was like, "Yeah." Like we were just like we dated for so long. He was just like, he made it really clear that like he doesn't even want to hear his partner pee. He was like, in my household, like if my girl's gonna use the bathroom, like I want her to have the water running, which I think is a little much.
That sounds
Like,
excessive to me.
yeah, he was like, if you're gonna use the bathroom, I don't care if it's number one, number two, like you need to put the water
How about
on.
he
Like I
just
don't
doesn't stand near the bathroom? I mean, how loud is she peeing that?
look. He was just weird about it, and he was just like, that's just a no, like
She
at
power
all. I
washing
don't
the
want.
toilet? Like, how is he, unless you're standing near the door, how are you hearing it?
He just made it really, really, really clear, which I appreciated in the beginning. He wants to be clear about what he's into and what he's not into, but it was a lot. And like him in general, he was a lot, this guy. Like we only went on like two, 3 dates and then that was it. But he was just too much of an open book. So I'm going to ask you the question now when it comes to dating.
Yeah.
Like what is too much to mention on the first few dates? Like what information shouldn't be talked about, what information should be talked about?
Yeah.
Again, I do feel like it's important to be clear about certain things in the beginning so you don't
Yeah.
waste someone's time,
I do think
but
this
at the
is kind of
same
a
time,
touchy topic in the sense. I think there's a fine line that you have to toe.
yeah.
And what I mean by that is, like you said, he was an open book. And if I'm talking to somebody and even before we go out on a date, like if we're just conversing before we go out on a date, or even on that date, I'll let them know that whatever question they ask me, I'm going to answer. Like I'll be an open book.
Mm-hmm.
I have nothing to hold back, but that doesn't mean I'm actively seeking to disclose everything about my life to this person, because like you said, there's some things that you keep private until you feel like it's the right moment to disclose it. I've also been in situations where I've been on a date where people have disclosed a lot of things to me, to where it's like, I'm not sure,
Overwhelming.
overwhelming. And I'm empathetic and whatnot, and I do have that effect on people where people will overshare whether I'm on a date with them or not. I'll be first time meeting someone and they'll open up about something that's very, very deep and personal, and there's a part of me that feels very um happy that I can make someone feel that
That
comfortable.
people can confide in you.
Sure, But the other thought is, why in the world are you telling me this?
Right
Why?
now.
I'm a
Yeah.
stranger. Why are you telling me this? And not to put anybody down. This isn't me, being negative in any way, but I did go on a date with someone, and it was on the second date, and it's horrible. Like, horrible things happen to people. This isn't me saying like, oh, can't date you because of this, that, and the other thing. I do think sometimes we do have to take into consideration the type of past they have, and if we're willing to take that on. I do think that's okay to disclose, but sometimes I think it's too soon. Like, I was on a second
It's all
date.
about timing.
It
It's
really
all about
is.
timing.
And I was on a second date with this person, and we were having dinner, and they just go, oh, they didn't put it as simple as this. There was more to it. Long story short, she basically told me, hey, when I was a kid, my uncle molested me, and, I'm still dealing with that. And in my head, I'm sitting to myself, A, that's horrible. I'm so sorry that that happened to you. I don't know, like, what am I supposed to do with this information?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, and I don't think this makes me any kind of, I think everyone would kind of have the similar reaction. I don't know where to go from here. It almost makes me want to be like, that's too much too soon for you to tell me. And it made me
Yeah,
lose
because
interest. And it's not so much about what happened, it's the timing
how
in
they
which,
went about telling you.
like, you
Because
don't know me yet.
there's certain things that happen in your life, I feel, that you should be able to be open with your partner, be able to talk about that, but it's all timing. Like, I
I think
understand if
so.
it's something that you really need to shed light on, like, hey, by the way, like, I'm not cool with this.
Yeah.
Or like, I will never go to Italy. I don't know, something like that on like the
Yeah.
first few dates.
Sure.
I don't know why anyone would never want to go to Italy, but
You
I
never
just
know.
was
You never know.
spewing stuff out of. But like when it comes to personal things like that, like, and again, if I know that if I were, God forbid, to ever been molested when I was younger or anything like that, and I brought it up to you later on in the relationship, I know you would have been so like cool about it. You would have tried to comfort me and make me feel better about it. But it's all timing. Like there's just certain things
Yeah.
that you need to open up about and at a certain time. There's things that I've opened up to you about that have happened in my life that, I wouldn't tell anybody else. But it's just like it's you gotta find the right time to really,
Yeah.
and the first few dates is not the right time to bring that kind of stuff
No.
up. It's not. And
And
that doesn't make her a bad person. That doesn't make
no.
her less worthy of a relationship. But it's like you got to gauge when's the right moment to bring up certain things. It's really just and that's overwhelming for someone. And it's like,
Yeah.
what do you want me to react? Do you want me to comfort you? Do you want to talk about it? Do you not want to talk about it? Like it's hard to even like move on from there.
True. And the hard part too is, even if I wanted to comfort you, I don't know you well enough to know how to comfort you. I don't know what the right thing to say to you is. I don't know you well enough. I can't sit here and say everything's okay because I don't know how you're genuinely feeling. I don't know how to go about that. And granted, it wasn't me that was like, I don't want to move forward with this. She let that out, and then later on was like, before we ever went on another date or anything like that, was, oh, I don't think I'm ready to date. Which I'm always in this catch-22 because there's a part of me that always wants to help another human if I can. So if you feel comfortable enough with me that you want to confide in me, I want to be able to lend an ear to you. I want to be able to make you feel better within my ability to do so. So this isn't me putting down this person, but at the same time, when you're looking at or you're thinking about this person forever, I think that sometimes information like that and other information similar to those types of things can get in the way. And it sounds unfortunate, but we're all human. So it can skew the way that we're looking at somebody. You know what I mean? So that's
Not
why,
that you should never open up about those kind of things, but it's
yeah, it's
finding the right
timing.
time.
It's timing.
Finding the right time.
And I do believe that, yes, that is a part of that person. So in essence, them disclosing that is me getting to know them. But I believe that it gets in the way of getting to know someone
It's too much. It's too much.
because
Too soon.
it almost puts up this, I don't want to call it a roadblock, but when you disclose huge life events, it's tough, or not even life events, but even certain beliefs. I understand. This is where this conversation gets interesting between you and I right now. Is I don't know what the right answer is. So we're going to
Mm.
talk through this just for everyone listening. Neither of us know 100% what the right answer is. We're going to talk through this right now and figure it out. We don't know when the right or wrong time is. There really is. It's like an unwritten rule of there's no right, there's no wrong. You kind of got to feel out the process a bit, I believe. But I think that if you are too upfront about some super big deal things, I think it can get in the way of getting to know somebody. And we're all humans. And if someone drops a bombshell on you, it's going to skew the way you're going to look at them and the way you're going to perceive the rest of the information they give you.
And not even just that. I think that also, if you're putting all your cards on the table, if you're just you're just like vomiting everything that's happened in your life within the first few dates, then you don't have stuff to talk about later on. And I feel like it's nice to slowly unravel and to slowly have a snowball effect and
Yes.
finding out things about someone. All right, you're opening up to me about this. Now you're opening up to me about that. It's like a slow
Yeah.
pace, and it's exciting. It's like, oh wow, I didn't know
Yeah.
this about you, positive and negative things.
That's
And
the
if you're
best part
just
about
gonna
dating, honestly.
word vomit, if you're just gonna word vomit everything on the first two dates, then it's kind of like, all right, now what do we talk about? You've told me every single little thing about you. Now what?
Yeah. And I
You
think
you
that's the
gotta
most
save
exciting
some of
part.
the you gotta save some stuff for the future.
Absolutely. That's the most exciting part about dating someone new is getting to know someone from the
The
ground
good, the
up
bad, and the ugly. The good, the bad, and the ugly.
100%.
Doesn't all have to be positive things. There's super
No.
negative things that happen in
Everybody's
people's lives
human. We all have
that they should
stuff.
be able to open up and talk about. But
Yes.
it's like, when's the right time? And again, there's never the right time, but it's you can still kind of hold back a little bit on certain things and be like, you know what, this isn't the right time. Like I should wait a little longer for
Yeah.
this. And I do feel like opening up about things like that too, specifically, I think you really need to be sure that this is someone that I see a future with, and this is
Yeah.
someone that I really
Because that's a
want
big
to.
private matter to share with somebody.
It's a huge private matter, and it's like if
100%.
you're gonna open up to me about something like that so quickly and so soon, like it kind of like puts a lot of thoughts in your mind, like
Yeah.
that may not even be the actuality of it, but it's like
Yeah.
you're kind of just like, what? It's too much. So I do think that, again, everybody is different, and I think there may be certain people who don't agree with us and think
Yeah.
that, you know what, I think it's cool that she was that honest with you and wanted to be straight up with you so that there was no
Because,
room for
yeah,
confusion or.
at the same time, this is where my confusion sets in. I think this is kind of what you're alluding to at this moment. You want people to disclose things relatively early in the sense of, am I not in a judgment way, but am I willing to be okay and vibe with what this person has going on? Because at the same time, A, you don't want to waste your time,
Mm-hmm.
but B, there's always the chance that if you got to know them first without the baggage, because I think it's good that everyone tells you too that they have baggage because it's coming along for the ride. You're in along for the ride,
And you don't
but
want any surprises
you
down the
don't want
road
any
where you're like, oh
surprises. So you
fuck.
don't want to be like, oh, we got to know each other for a year, then you drop this bombshell that I'm totally not cool with, and then I feel like I wasted a year of my life. So I get it from that standpoint, but from the other standpoint, you're more apt to be cool with major things when you get to know the human as the human. And I understand that this baggage and all that stuff is part of the human. It's what every experience, good or bad in life, is what makes you who you are, right? So I get it. It is a part of that person. But I do believe that dropping certain topics or certain things
Too
too
early.
soon can skew the way that we look at somebody. Where if we got to know each other in the sense of, hey, it's the first date, we're talking about interests and maybe where we share, you know, things in common. And then you start to build rapport, and then those bombshells don't feel as big as bombshells. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I'm thinking about this in because
And
I can see like
I
a positive to both sides of it in a sense.
yeah, but I do think that specifically when it comes to trauma, when it comes to childhood trauma or any kind of trauma, it's a very delicate subject.
Yeah.
And I feel like it is something that you really need to be, one, sure about the other person and how they're gonna maybe react or feel about it. And then two, you have to be really careful about how you, because our trauma is what makes us who we are. Our
Oh yeah,
trauma is what builds us, what shapes
it
us,
affects
what
all our
makes us into the,
behavior.
it affects everything. And I think it's important to talk about trauma and be open about that. But
But
it's
when's
like
the right time?
time and place.
You
And
know?
again, like I said, nobody ever knows there's never a perfect time for anything. But I think as human beings, you have a little common sense to kind of figure out when's too soon and when's like, okay, I really see a future with this person. I want this. I want to spend the rest of my life with this person. Like, let's open up, the bag of worms. Let's be real here.
Yeah.
And if that person truly loves you and truly wants to be with you, they're going to be accepting of it, and they're going to find everything about you to be beautiful, regardless if it's really ugly things have happened to you. But it's like I really do think that you need to be able to have that,
Yeah.
just that radar, and be able to
Yeah.
be like, all right, you know what, I'm going to open up to you about this right now. This is what happened to me, and I feel like this is the right time for us to talk about this. Not the first date, not the
No.
second date, not the third or fourth date. It's
So
like, in my opinion,
how long into this, what do you think would be a good timeline? The only reason I say this
when it
is because of kind of like what I just said. There's a fine line of like you disclose this way too soon versus you disclose this too late and it's such a big deal that it could affect the relationship long term. I think there's that. Where do you think that happy medium is on saying I have this big deal that could affect how someone looks at me, but I don't want to disclose it too soon because that's all they're going to see. And they're not going to see me for
mm,
me. They're going to see me for my trauma. And my trauma isn't necessarily me. My trauma is a part of me that I can
yeah,
work through, but it's going to take time. But at the same time, you want to disclose stuff up front because you would also like people to disclose stuff to you up front to a certain extent. So you're not like, oh, I dated this person for 2 years. They dropped this crazy bombshell on me that I don't know if I can handle. And now it gets a little bit more complicated. So if you had this idea of when is that right time, and I don't think there is a right time. I think there's too soon, and then there's also waiting too long.
yeah, I think that's the perfect
Where do
way
you
to
think
word
that?
it. There's too soon, and then
What do you
not
think
soon
that?
enough.
What do you think that middle portion is? Like how long in versus like, oh, that's too
For
far in.
me, for me specifically, I wouldn't open up about things like that unless I seriously see a future with you.
Okay.
And for me to really get to know someone on that level and feel comfortable enough, I can't say like a certain amount of dates, but I
Yeah.
do feel like a few months down the line of getting to know each other and like touch the basics first. There's so many things that you guys can discuss: interests, hobbies, what you like to do on your spare time, what you do for a career,
Yeah.
your family, not getting too in depth about your family, but your family and things like that. And there's so much to unpack in the beginning that there's really no need to go all in so
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah. You
There's
don't need to
so many
go.
things
Yeah.
that you can discuss. And if you are dating someone and you're running out of things to talk about and then that's a red flag right there. If you feel like you need to bring up your traumas and you need to talk about all these crazy intense things right off the bat, and you're having a hard time just having normal intellectual conversations with someone and just about getting to know each other,
Yeah.
about things like that, then that's a problem. I think that you should be able to get into small talk and get to that point eventually. And whether that be a few months down the line, a few days down the line, everybody's different. I'm not going to sit here and talk for everybody, but I do think that it's important to be able to have meaningful conversations about things that don't have to get too in depth about all your traumas and all of the crazy things that have happened to you in your life. There's so many things that you can talk about in a conversation with someone that doesn't necessarily have to involve all of that super deep shit that I feel like should take a little bit more time to really get all that out in the air, in
Yeah.
my opinion, at least.
No, I agree. I think basically what I'm taking away from what you said, and I agree, is, and I know it's everyone's different, everyone's level of dealing with other people in social skills kind of varies, but
Social skills is a big
read the room.
thing.
Read the room. I feel like it's a very intuitive moment, and like I said just then, like everyone's level of uh intuition, everyone's level of intuition is different, you know, So that really plays a factor into it. But read the room, I think. If you guys
Hmm.
are, because like you said, everyone moves at a different speed. If you are very having a very engaging, comfortable conversation and you guys are going deep, but it's not like one person sending it and the other one's really more reserved. If you're both kind of, I don't want to use this as like a boxing term, but like trading blows, like you're going like one for one and you're matching each other and you're feeling the vibe, I feel you can kind of read a room. Granted, that doesn't mean first or second date. Also, I'm not judging a person and saying, oh my God, can't deal with someone who went through that. That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm just saying that wasn't the right time to disclose that
That says
information.
also a lot about her social skills, right? Because she may have felt in that moment that she had nothing else to talk about. And that maybe that was going to be a conversation starter. That was going to be something that kind of built onto. And like, for that, that's not a conversation starter. That is something that you're opening up to someone that you truly care about and want to be open and upfront about. But again, I feel like there's so many other things that can be talked about on the first few days that don't involve
Yeah.
all that shit that's happened to you in your past.
So let me say this just to preface for everybody that's listening and in general. And this is how I received that when a few things went through my head. One, I am very flattered and happy that I like made you experience a level of comfortability to where you felt like it was okay to share with me that. And I don't know if that's something about me because it happens to me all the time with people either I'm
It's
on a dates
definitely
with.
something about you. You
Um,
definitely have a very, like, you just have an aura to you, and you're also a very good conversationalist. Like, you just really good at talking. So I feel like maybe she's felt like, all right, maybe I can open up about this and he'll understand and we can have a nice conversation about
yeah,
this. But I think that her
and
just wasn't ready at the moment.
I'll never make anyone feel judged or less than for I'm like I said, I'm
Never.
flattered and happy that she felt comfortable to open up about that.
But it
I'm
threw
more
things
than
off.
I'm more than happy to listen when someone wants to share, no matter how deep, dark, or horrific it is. I'm always there to lend an ear. I'm always there to help. To expect me in a romantic sense to want to take that on after just saying it on the second date is kind of a lot. But the one thing I would never do is if someone was struggling with something and we were on a date and maybe we decide not to move forward, I would 100% always extend my hand to be like, if you ever
Of
need
course.
anybody to talk to, I'm here to help. I'm here to listen. I'm here to give advice. I'm here for whatever you need. We may not be right for each other romantically, but I'll never just be like, oh, that's a bombshell, abandoning this
Because that
person.
definitely wasn't the only reason why it didn't move forward. There was a lot more to it than that, for sure.
I mean, that happened. And I also think that after I left, and I felt it as soon as she disclosed it, was like, oh my God, I don't know why I said that. Like, I felt it immediately.
I think she didn't realize what she had said until she said it,
She
and then she
felt
was like, "Oh
so
shit!"
comfortable in the moment that she just spewed it and then was like, ah, like, oh my God, I shouldn't have said that. To when then, she was like, I don't think I'm ready to date people. I'm like, totally cool, understandable, not a big deal, and
I
that's
think that
cool.
was actually a good thing for her though, to be like, "I'm not at the stage right now to date anyone," because if something like that is, I know I want to go pour myself another glass of wine, and going into that and being too open about certain things. We were discussing this about this also being a topic of discussion. Um, how soon is too soon when it comes to saying I love you to someone? I think that's a really good question to start getting into.
Well, we can jump that off of not even just that, but how, like, when is the right time to even ask? I don't even know. Would it be asking someone out, asking someone to be your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whatever name you want to associate with it, and saying I love you? I feel like goes hand in hand. I know obviously that shit's not happening at the same time. I'm sure it has happened at the same time somewhere in the world. I don't know anyone who does. But based on our experience, because if you listen to the last episode, you know that the first night we met, I asked her to be my girlfriend, which
Well,
is
the next
the
morning.
next morning, but within the first 24 hours that we
Yeah.
knew each other in the physical sense of I met her. Well, yeah, we talked, but that I actually knew her as a human.
I
Um,
could have been a sociopath for all you knew.
I mean, me too. Who knows?
Yeah.
That was relatively quickly, and it worked out okay, I would say, because we dated for as long as we did. Obviously, it wasn't a home run because we're not together anymore. Um, but that's one of those things that I would advise against. And we didn't really talk about this in our story of our relationship in the first episode, but the I love you in our relationship came relatively early
On your end, yes.
on my end. But I'll even say
I,
this: you reciprocated it relatively quickly as well. You may not have reciprocated it in the sense of you felt it exactly when I did, but because we started dating in December and you were reciprocating it by Valentine's Day, which is still like within 2
and
months.
I'm gonna be real with you. I definitely set it back in that way because I didn't want you to feel shitty. Not to
Fair.
say, not to say that I didn't feel that for you, because I did. I definitely felt love, but I definitely wasn't ready to reciprocate it in the way that you were telling it to me. And I definitely
Yeah.
felt guilty in the sense that if I don't say it back, he's gonna feel, because I could tell emotionally you were an emotional dude. And I feel like you definitely, and I could kind of
An
tell
emotional dude.
you were an emotional dude, and I can tell that you had a little bit of anxiety and you had certain things
Yeah.
that you were a little bit of an overthinker. So
Oh,
I didn't
100%.
want you. I didn't want you to be like, oh, she didn't say I love you back. And I know that you were gonna like have a ton of things spiral in your head. So I'm not gonna say I didn't mean it, because I definitely loved you and,
Yeah.
and felt a lot for you. But I definitely, and it was something that I thought about a lot. I was like, this is moving really quickly, and I think that this is way too soon for him to be saying all of this to me. And again, I did reciprocate it, but a big reason was because I didn't want you to feel like, less than
Yeah.
you should have felt.
But looking back on it as well, just because I guess that even moves into this question of like, what is love to the sense of,
What is
I was waiting
love?
for that.
Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt
But at
me
the time,
no more.
when I said it, it felt like that was the peak of it in that moment, right? That's what we all think. Like, oh my
Mm-hmm.
God, even though I've only known you for about 2 months, it's like, oh, how could I ever picture my life without this person? And that always, in hindsight, that always makes me wonder how real was that feeling versus was it just an emotional high that I
I think
misconstrued
that it was an
as love?
emotional high. I think that it was an adrenaline for you. I think that we
Yeah.
both definitely were like, wow, this is moving quickly. This is great. This is beautiful. And we have very different love languages. And again, love language is going to be a whole other episode.
100%.
But I
Yeah.
definitely feel like you were a lot more verbal with your love than what I
Yes.
was used to.
Yes.
And it was something that in the beginning made me feel a little bit uncomfortable. I'm not going to lie. But I felt like it was a chance for me to be a little bit more open and verbal, something I'm not used to. And it was something I definitely struggled with. You were definitely a lot more good at communicating things with me, regardless if it was too soon or not. You were always good about just being open and communicating things with me. And it was harder for me to do that. So it was something that I definitely struggled with in the beginning of the relationship. And I definitely do. I mean, I fell in love with you fairly quickly for sure. And I was definitely in love with you quickly. But again, it all moved on too quick. I was definitely feeding off of your energy, which I was, because I wanted to match your energy. I wasn't necessarily realistically matching the energy, but I wanted to match the energy. And
Yeah.
eventually I did. But it definitely just all happened sooner than it should have.
Yeah, because I look back on that, like I just said, I wasn't sure if that was more of me being on an emotional high. I think a lot of it too had to do with I knew what I wanted in that moment in my
Yes.
life, which is
And
crazy
I
to think
really
about.
like that about you. I
Yeah.
really respect that and like that about you, because you've definitely taught me, especially for my future relationships, that it's okay to verbalize how you feel. It's okay to communicate to someone how you feel. It's something that I was not used to. I was just always just like, eek, like I almost felt awkward in a way sometimes, like trying to explain my love and verbalize my love, and I would feel bad because I feel like sometimes I didn't verbalize it as much as I should have with you, especially with certain things. But it's definitely taught me that like it's okay to be open about things. It's okay to tell someone how you feel. Sometimes it might be too soon. It
Yeah.
definitely was a little too
Yeah.
soon.
But we rolled right through it.
We did roll through it. We had a great almost 5 years together. But if looking back at my past relationship, and I keep on bringing that up because it's something that happened recently to me,
I
we
think we
also
should
said I
do
love you.
an episode breaking that down because I have we'll talk about
Yeah,
that.
you have a
But
very good strategy
yeah,
towards that. But I'm not gonna. I felt different. It wasn't as soon as when we said I love you. It was definitely more months that had passed by. But to be honest with you, I genuinely
wait. What do you mean more months that have passed by?
no. I'm saying like we said I love you super quickly.
Yeah, but
With
didn't
this
you only?
other relationship,
How long did
well, it
you
wasn't
date this person for?
August until December.
Oh, was that long?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, see, I thought it was like 2-3 months.
No, it was
Oh,
August until we didn't. But the thing was, we didn't like date until August, September, October, like November. But I definitely fell in
gotcha,
love with him. I
gotcha,
definitely fell in love with him very quickly.
gotcha.
And it was
Okay.
a genuine love. And when we did say I love you to each other, like it did feel right. Um, but yeah, in that situation, like the I love you were sooner than it should have been. But then again, it felt right. So again, I really, when it comes to saying I love you, one, I feel like you should trust your gut. And if you feel like you want to say it and you feel like it's right, then do it. But make the other partner know and be aware that you don't have to reciprocate this.
Yeah, it's
Like,
not a
yes,
end all
yes,
be all.
yes, like I'm saying this to you, and I feel like it's you know when it's too soon. And if you do
Yeah,
want to say it, then say it. But make sure that you let the other person know, like,
take the
I'm gonna
pressure
tell you
off.
this. One, don't feel like you need to say it back. And two, I'm really feeling emotionally really overwhelmed, it's something that I've been feeling, and it's something that I've been wanting to let out. But at the same time, like I know this is soon. Don't feel like you need to say it back. Like I feel like you just need to reassure that person, like I feel this way, but don't feel like you need to just say it back just because I said it. You
Yeah,
know?
I 100% agree because I think pop culture, movies, and you see it more or less in movies when or TV shows when people propose and the other one's not ready for marriage that it's an automatic breakup. But I think it's the same
It's
thing.
not.
It's not, but they made you believe that that's what happens if you're not on the same page. And I believe the same applies here where people would be like, oh my God, they love me already. And they turn and run. So I think it's definitely important to do exactly what you said, which is make sure you're like, hey, I may be a little bit ahead of where you're at. I don't want you to feel like you're gonna if you don't say it back, you're gonna break my heart because I think that's what makes people turn and run is oh my God, this person's already that invested and I'm not sure where I'm at exactly. I know that I enjoy spending time with this person and I'm getting there, but I'm not there yet. And they get scared because they're like, oh my God, that person's already that deep in it. If I continue down this path, I'm just going to hurt them more long term. And it scares them and they turn and run versus doing what you said, which is saying, hey, this is how I feel. It's totally cool if you're not there yet. It's totally cool. But I
And
want
you
to
got
be,
to be genuine about
yeah,
it. You got to be genuine about it because I feel like there are some
100%.
people like I'm gonna
Yeah.
say this to you, and if you don't feel the same way, like it's cool. But you could just it's
Yeah.
all any kind of message that you're trying to tell someone. It is 110% gonna come down to the delivery of it, and it can be with your friends, it can be with your family, it can be with your significant other. You have to learn how to properly deliver a message. It's
Yes.
very important.
Let's give an
Your
example here.
tone, your attitude,
Role
your
play.
everything.
Role play. We're gonna try this. I'm gonna try it on you in two different ways.
Okay.
Hey, I have something I want to tell you, and it's totally cool if you don't feel the same way, and if you're not there yet, it's fine. But I love you.
Literally already a no no.
Right? There's
Already a no.
that. I mean, that was probably a little exaggerated, but if you deliver it in a way like, hey, we've been spending a lot of time together lately, and I'm a very emotional person, and it's totally cool if you're not where I am, and I want to make sure that you don't feel any pressure in this moment whatsoever. But I want you to know how I feel about you, and I think that I'm at the point where I love you, and it's totally okay if you don't feel the same way. It's not going to make me feel anything less than, but I just want you to know how I feel.
Beautiful.
It's all
Perfection.
about how you deliver that
I really
message.
like the hey.
Hey, I had to make it so like
But that's a
monotone
perfect
as
example.
possible.
It's a perfect example. You can there's so many things that you want to be honest with people. You know, you want to be honest with someone and be able to tell them how you feel. But
Yeah,
it's all about how you say it, and that's with everything in life. Everything in life.
absolutely.
So I think it's just really important that you and also like think about it. Like because sometimes we also do act with emotion and say things too quickly because there's definitely instances where I've said things and I'm like, shit, that was way out of line. I
Yeah.
definitely said that in the spur of the moment, like in the heat of the moment. But I also feel like if you are feeling like I really want to say I love you to this person, like take a few days, digest it, internalize it, maybe talk to a few friends about it, talk to someone, and just then make and don't hold back. Because if you really want to say it, if you're really feeling it, you're gonna feel it. You're gonna
Yeah.
feel it.
Yeah.
But I also do think that we need to be careful to just wear our heart on our sleeves and just say something because we're in the heat of the moment. And especially like even in sex, like a lot of people will say, I love you while having sex because it's just like, oh my God, you're like in this adrenaline and this passion and this and that. And then you say, I love you while having sex. And then the next day you realize like that was just me
In the moment.
mesmerized by the lust of it all because people, and this is a whole other episode in itself,
Yeah.
confusing lust with love because that happens all the time. I'm a big culprit of confusing lust with love.
And I think
Many times.
we, or me personally, on that, not the sex subject, but, in the spur of the moment of being like, am I on an emotional high or is this
Mm-hmm.
genuinely how I feel? And I may be on the path of feeling that, but sometimes we get overly excited or overly emotional and maybe sometimes impatient, and we don't let the thought simmer at all. The thought pops
You
into our
should
head and
like
we
give
just
yourself.
go.
You should like give yourself a timeline. Like you know what, this is how I feel right now. Let me give myself 2, 3 more days or a week to sit
Yeah.
on this. And if I still feel the same way, if it's
Yeah.
still continuing to come back into my thoughts and continuing to just take over my mind and my body and my soul, then go for it.
Yeah.
You have to give yourself a little bit of time to just internalize what's going on.
Now, this leads me to my next kind of thing I want to discuss, in the sense of we were fairly young at the beginning of our relationship. You were 21, I was 24 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were in that moment, we felt like we were probably a lot older than we were. Oh yeah, we're
Mm-hmm.
totally adults. And now that I'm getting closer to 30, I'm like, I didn't know shit. I was still a kid. I had no idea. But as you get older, do you believe that the rules, I don't even want to say rules because there are no rules, but it kind of changes a little
I
bit
got no rules, I got them.
because of the way that the timeline
Even though it's
works.
new rules, not new
The
rules.
timeline works, if that makes sense. When you're younger, you have more of your future ahead of you. You kind of want to play more of the long game. But when you get to an age where you meet somebody, I feel like things have the ability to move a lot quicker because you're an adult, you've been through the dating scene, you've already done your trials and tribulations with other people. And yes, you do need to be cautious. You do need to be open and honest about a lot of things. And there are still moments where you can misconstrue emotions for how, like, emotional highs for how you actually feel. And yes, you should still sit on the I love you for a while, but when you get to a certain age and you're both know exactly what it is that you want, I feel like things can move a little bit more quickly and in a more genuine way. Not to say that when we were younger it wasn't a genuine feeling. I think we just weren't sure what the feeling was. Now
Yeah, and
being
like
through it
obviously
as an adult, you think it's different.
with age, your maturity levels change, your mindset changes about a lot of things.
So
So I
how
think
much do
that
you think
also
that
has a big thing to do
fucks
with
with the
it.
timeline? Do you think it speeds it up quite a bit? Or do
I
you think
mean,
it stays
definitely. I
around the
mean,
same?
you can relate more to this because you're getting closer to 30.
Yeah.
but but I mean, I definitely feel like I'm at a stage in my life where the next time I do get into a serious relationship, I do feel like things can probably move quicker because I feel like you're also at a point in your life where you're very sure of what you're looking for and what you
Yeah.
want. When
You
I was
know what you want.
21, when you were 24, we were still super young. We were still didn't really have a clear like tunnel vision as to what we want and what we're looking for. We were both still figuring shit out, still aging, still maturing. feel like now we're at a point at 27 and 30, just damn near, that we have a whole different perspective on life and on love. And I think that our relationship in itself, because from 21 till now, I've grown so much as a person, both personally, intellectually, on so many different levels,
Yeah.
that I have a whole different perspective on life now. So I do think that 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 does affect how quickly a relationship will grow, or how quickly you do say the I loves you and all the I love yous and all of that. And once you get closer to your 30s, you're more ready to settle down and more ready to figure shit out. I don't think that that should make you rush into anything, because you do want to get to know someone really well, and make sure that you're making the right decision. But I think it is easier to be more upfront and be more transparent without feeling uncomfortable, because you're like, all right, well, I'm at an age where this is what I'm looking for. These are my non-negotiables. And if you're with it, you're with it. And if you're not, then that's it. I feel like it's harder to say that when you're younger, because you want to protect the other
Yeah.
person's feelings. You're more in your thoughts. You still have kind of like that still innocence to you. Not that we're not innocent anymore, but I feel like we're at a point where we're more. I want to be upfront about this, and this is how I feel. And
Yeah.
if you're not on my level, and if you're not on the same page, then like let's move on.
Yeah.
That's harder to do when you're young. It is really hard. It's hard to do.
Because you haven't lived enough life yet. I mean, with every year of life comes more experience, and with all those experience comes good and bad experiences that teach you so many lessons that you learn about yourself, about the world, about how life works, and you're going to continue to learn every single day for the rest of your life, because the older you get, the more problems you take on, the more that your past problems that seemed like a big deal get put into perspective, because all of a sudden you're taking, your trivial problems when you were a kid that felt like the end of the world are no longer those problems. So yeah, I do think that this whole episode has been about, comfortability and timelines, and understanding that there is no super right or wrong. This isn't a subject that's black and white where it has to be this way or that way. There's tons of gray areas, and everybody's timeline is different. When you settle
But
down,
there
what you're
is
looking,
too
there is
soon.
too soon.
There is too
There is
soon.
too
I don't think that
soon,
there's a right time,
but there's
but I
too
think
soon.
there is too soon. 100%. So I think that that's a really good kind of takeaway from this whole conversation,
Yeah.
is to, again, trust your gut. Always trust your gut.
Yeah.
But just internalize things. You know what I mean? People don't
Take
reflect enough.
inventory of what's going on.
Yeah.
100%.
Take inventory, write notes, do a pros and cons list. Really just, think with your head, not with your heart. And I know that's hard to say. It's really easy to be like, I love
Pros and
him. This is
cons
what I
list.
want. You really
I know,
should.
it's
And
just funny to hear it that way.
I think it's so important. And this was something that I had to do too with past situations. It's like, is this going to be worth it for me in the long run? Yes, I love this person. Yes, I feel this way about this person, but are the cons outweighing the pros? Because at the end of the day, if that's what it's going to be, it's not worth it, and it's not fair to you either. You need to know, when it's right and when it's not right.
Yeah. And as you get older, like we were talking about, what you want, and if the other person that you're dating is on the same page and is vibing with you, I'm not saying rush it. And I'm not saying there's a timeline for anybody that you have to abide to, because everybody's different. You can look at people throughout their 20s. Some people get married, some people have kids, some people settle down, some people find the career that they're passionate about super young. Some people don't. And there's no right or wrong. Yes, there's too soon, but there's no like right or wrong to where you have to be a minimum of 3 years before you know that, hey, I want to marry this person. Some people can decide that after 6 to 8 months. Do I think that may be too soon? Maybe, but everybody's
And
different.
it's all situational in life. Everyone's different. Everything is situational. There's
100%.
no
So
rules that are
never,
going to be the same for everyone.
my biggest lesson here is never compare yourself to someone else's timeline. I see so many people that maybe in a friend group, and most of their friends are married and having kids, and they're the one that's not, and they feel like there's
You have
something
to
wrong with them.
embrace,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
you have to embrace your own journey. You have to
100%.
embrace
Yes.
your own timeline, because I'm almost 30, and I have so many people in my age group are married with kids
Almost
and
30.
have own a home. I am almost 30. Homeowners are in a completely different stage of my life, but I am so blessed and happy that I am in this stage of my life.
Yeah.
And I do feel like things are going to coming into place and start I'm going to start molding my future, and I'm excited to turn 30. Like I'm excited for you to turn 30.
Oh, I'm gonna kill it.
And I feel like so many good things happen in your 30s and your 40s and your 50s. Like the real shit happens now. Your
Yeah.
20s was just the practice round, the rough draft. Now we're getting towards the final draft and really getting into what really matters and what's going to make us happy in life. And I'm excited for the future. I really am.
Yeah, and I feel like you have to be, and that's my biggest advice. I know we talked about comfortability and how our experience in that, and being too upfront, how upfront is too upfront, when is it the right time to disclose something. The biggest thing is you're on your own journey. Don't ever look at someone else's journey and let that be an indication of how well you're doing in life, because it's not a measuring stick.
Mm-hmm.
This is a long
Nobody's
game.
keeping score. Yep.
And if you are
And I
keeping
feel like,
score, you're a sad human being.
yeah. And if you're with the person that's meant to be with you, it's all gonna align. It's all going to align, and it's time. It's gonna align. That rhymes. Let's make a rap.
Let's not. Let's not do that. I don't know if anyone would want to listen to it. I've heard you rap.
I'm a great rapper.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
doubt it.
I can freestyle.
Yeah.
Y'all don't know. I think
And I
honestly,
think they'll
there needs to
stay
be an
not knowing.
episode.
They'll stay not
I think
knowing.
there should be an
I
episode
don't
of
think
us
so.
just. I feel like Jared. I feel like you've got bars deep down. You
You're
got
giving me
some
way too much
bars in
credit.
there.
Way too much credit.
You're a very clever fellow.
Yeah, but I'm not a lyrical genius, so let's not. I haven't
I'm
delved
not a
into that
rapper though.
space. Hey, maybe my 30s. Maybe I'll be a musician. Who knows? No, definitely not. But I think now this is probably a good point to kind of wrap this up. We've delved into a lot of things, and every time we do one of these episodes, all we do is think of a million other ideas for other episodes that we want to go off on a tangent and go into deep detail on, and we realize, all right, let's pace ourselves. This episode's about something different. Let's stay the course. And we're gonna get better at this as we go along. I'm very pleased with how the first two have gone. I feel like they've flowed very
Mm-hmm.
nicely. Hey, everybody, we're still noobs at this, but we really appreciate everybody who listens. We want honest feedback. If you have feedback, send it our way. There's tons
And
of
if there's
things.
topics that you want to hear, if there's questions that you have for us, we're going to get to a point where we want people to submit questions and that we're going to answer. But at this point, just comment, your thoughts, things that you feel like we should talk about, things that we shouldn't talk about, things that we should improve. We're here on the journey, and we're here with you guys, and we just want to entertain people and be able to do something different and unique that's not out there on the space, because there's really nothing like this right now out there, which is really awesome and scary and cool at the same time, that this is something that's truly unique to us and our experience. So just show us some love, give us some feedback,
Yeah.
honest feedback, and we're really excited to continue on to the next episode. Again, like we said in the first episode, we have so many ideas and so many topics that we're going to talk about and just get into: serious, goofy, funny, sad. It's going to be a whole mix of emotions, because that's what me and Jared are, just a shit show of emotions.
Yes. I don't know if shit show is the best way to describe that, but maybe it might end up being that way. But yes, for everyone who's listening on either Spotify, Apple Podcast, if you're watching us on YouTube, just check out all of our platforms. We're on Instagram, TikTok. All the links will be in the description below. Wherever you found us, you can find us somewhere else. We really appreciate everyone who stuck around and listened through the entire episode. Just to echo what she said, make sure you're liking, leaving feedback, things that you want us to talk about. And, if you enjoyed this, please share it with your friends, share it with someone who you think might either get some value out of this or just entertainment in general. So we really, really, really appreciate everyone watching, and we can't wait to continue to pump these out because we're having a blast doing it.
The dog is literally chilling now, like asleep.
I know we should just,
As we wrap up the episode.
as we wrap up, we had to cut a few times because he was getting a little rambunctious, which is fine. Can't blame a puppy. A puppy's going to be a puppy. It's totally cool.
I'm a dog mom. What can I say?
See, my dog's just sleeping, but that's all she does anyway. So
Yeah, but she's like
10.
10 now.
You almost said 12. Trying to age my
I
dog.
know.
Trying to age her.
No, never.
Yeah.
We love Lexi Lulu.
But thank you everyone for
Thank you
watching
guys so much.
or listening, depending on how you consumed this
Watching,
content.
listening, internalizing, reflecting, loving, hating. Who knows?
We'll eventually master the intro and outro, but we thank you guys for sticking by us, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.